And people were in the audience saying, we pay your salaries. And it got to the point where the school board members is like, this is a shitty job. This is a shitty, thankless job. And she was swearing, and she's like, I'm a volunteer. You don't pay me anything, blah, blah, blah. This woman was my hero. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are, episode 2. We didn't get canceled. So, the suits up top decided, let's give this guy another shot. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm being told there's not actually suits. It's just me and James. And so there are no suits. It's just us. Welcome back, dudes, dudettes, all you fun people out there. This, I guess, like I said, is going to be episode 2 of potentially Modern Mythology. We're still messing with the name, but I thought that was kind of clever. And, being a nerd and loving mythology, I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. But you never know. It might change midway. We might decide that whatever. We'll figure it out. Play it by ear. Stick around and find out. That's how I'll say it. But yeah, we're trying to get this like every weekly or bi-weekly. And last week we as a family had one of the worst weeks in a long time, right? We all got a stomach virus that was just heinous. Right, heinous. We decided, because we've been in COVID times for the last 2 years, that we were going to take a vacation. We were going to go to an indoor water park hotel thing. That was a mistake. That was a big mistake. It wasn't a mistake. We had a really great time. That's the thing. Like, we all had a great time. The kids had a great time. I had a great time. We're all fun and games and swimming and blah blah blah. And then you get back, and then it's like you get the stomach bug. That is the stomach bug of all stomach bugs. And oh my God, it was just, I'd never been so sick, And I was saying it was worse than COVID. I had gotten COVID in January, and this was like, COVID was a breeze compared to whatever this was. And it was, both ends, man, both ends, it's like 35, I never thought, I really became aware of my sphincter control at 35. And I never thought, that's something you take for granted, the control of your rectum and its strength, right? Until all of a sudden you're like, oh, and things age and they get looser and it's not as tight and the control is not as there as you want it to be, which is a humbling experience, And then once you go through it, and then you watch your kids go through it, and you're like, yeah, it sucks, it's. Anyways, so we had a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back now, and hopefully I look like 20 pounds thinner from all the puking and shitting I've done, Again, man, this is challenging because I can't hear anybody laughing out there, right? So like I just say things, and I'm hoping I got James to laugh, that's why he was like, do you want me to be here? I need you there. I need somebody to laugh, because if no one's laughing, then this is really going to be rough. I need some feedback, feedback. But anyways, so what are we talking about today? I have a nice list of things to talk about. And actually, I was going to talk about right off the bat was like the trip, the trip to the place we went. And it's funny because when I was there, being the dad, sometimes you take things for granted. Like things will just show up, like clothes and shoes and bathing suits. And, Randy was like, oh, I got a bathing suit, and it's a red, blue, and white one, or red, white, and blue. And I was like, sure, yeah, let me go see if I got another one, And I didn't get a chance to. I forgot about it. So when I got there to this indoor water park, and we're going to be swimming the whole time, right? That bathing suit is a bright red, white, and blue American flag bathing suit, okay? And, well, like, we'll just say it, patriotism in this country is a little different nowadays. You know what I mean? It's like a virtue signaling thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you wear flags and you're patriotic, you're an America fuck yeah kind of guy, And then, if you don't, it's like, okay, well, it's like it's been co-opted. Patriotism has been co-opted. So I felt weird wearing an American flag bathing suit, right? Which is in and of itself like whatever, right? It's an American flag. I love America. I like being in this country and being a citizen. But I definitely felt weird. And it was confirmed when I was getting nods and like, by people that just I would not expect to get nods in that stuff from. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't expect, the I'm not I don't know if you can tell. I'm not like a big super tall, big jacked guy. But these fucking tatted out, dudes, they're biker fucking guys. Give me more of these. Hey, like flag. And I'm just like, "Oh shit, dude." And like, am I a fucking MAGA guy now? Like that's, you know what I mean? Like that's what I thought, and I was like feeling bad about it. I was feeling really like some type of way, like, man, I shouldn't be wearing this, like, oh, this is sending the wrong message, right? Like what message? Like, I like America, right? Like, why is it that in my head I was feeling like I couldn't wear this, or I was unworthy to wear it, or was sending a right message. And actually, Randy kind of put it in a different perspective for me that really it really changed my mind, and not to change my mind. And she was just like, well, if you think about it like this, Matt, you, out of all the people, and this is what she said, care about politics more than anybody I know, which that's probably not true. I mean, I pay attention, but I'm not like, whatever. She just, the way she said it though, she was like, the way you care about politics and this country, you were probably the most patriotic person I know. And I kind of went, interesting. She's like, because you give a shit, you're paying attention to things and you have opinions on things, and how is that not patriotic? And it really gave me a pause there for a second, right? Like, it's like, yeah, right? Like, I do care what happens, right? I do care. And hopefully you can't, my Harry's awake and you can hear, oh, okay, yeah, good. No problem. There's like ting, 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 and I'm like, son of a bitch. Once again, guys, don't have kids. I'm just kidding. But seriously, don't. So yeah, I mean, it just changed my mind. It's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna wear American flag shorts because I am patriotic. She was saying that I'm a patriotic person because of the way I care about politics, and I didn't ever think about it like that, and I just think that the way maybe like flags and covering yourself in American flags and stuff like that, that it sends a message that a nationalism, and all this stuff, and how it's like. That's okay though. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. You can be patriotic and you can wear flags and you can still be, a liberal, a dirty liberal like me, I mean, it's like, but like, that's like the problem too that I was getting at. It's like this otherdom, them, they, this other class. But it's like, it's not like that. Like, we were all at the indoor water park together. You know what I mean? I'm sure that some of those people got just as sick as I did, from the same bug. You know what I mean? So how different are we if we're both shitting and puking at the same time? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing though. I feel like I need to I've been trying in my daily life and like in life to not be so, put people into boxes and be them, they, and us. And you know what I'm saying? And like the danger is other, because like, I feel like I've trying to grow out of dehumanizing people. You know what I mean? Like making it so that they're not the enemy, because like that I think is the most dangerous thing of all, is always having constant enemies, constantly being under attack, constantly feeling like, your way of life is dying. And that's dangerous, man. That's super dangerous. And I don't know. I'm going to wear more American flag bathing suits, and I'm going to be even more patriotic. And when people are like, oh man, do you love so-and-so? And I'll be like, no, but I love America, just like you, pal, and that's what it's about, I said, I think in the first episode, it's trying to get more connection with people. And, that's the goal, is more connection. And I feel like I'm already deeply connected into something, because last episode I talked about Star Trek a lot. And then the next week they're like, hey guys, we're going to come out with Star Trek 4. And I'm like, what? So somebody at Paramount obviously heard the podcast, obviously was like, well, this guy, he's really fucking into it. He's really into it. Let's make Star Trek 4. And so I gave them my approval. I said, okay, you should do it. And so they did it. Man, I just thought that was pretty cool. I'm on the cultural zeitgeist, like right on the pulse, right on the pulse of society. Let's hope the movie's good, because if the movie sucks, I'm going to be in real big trouble. You know what I mean? Like, because you made this, you've manifested the shitty Star Trek movie into the universe. So whatever happens, I'm going to feel deeply responsible in the making and on all this from afar. I'm sure I'll be talking about it ad nauseum on the podcast because that's just the way I roll. But yeah, let's see. I got my notes over here because it's hard to remember everything in this brain, right? There's a lot going on. Oh, you know what? Modern mythology, right? We're talking about mythology and all that stuff. A great topic of discussion right now is going to be Batman versus Superman, right? Or Batman versus Spider-Man, excuse me, other S hero. I'm super interested in this because we just saw Spider-Man No Way Home come out, which was like the biggest movie in the last like 3 or 4 years, obviously due to the global pandemic and everything. But it was incredibly popular, even during a time when it was still a little sketchy going to the movies. It still did gangbusters, and like the hype still hasn't really died down. I heard they might be re-releasing it in March with like bonus content and stuff, and I bet it's gonna make even more money, But it's super fascinating. It beat like Avatar for like domestic box office, which is like a huge achievement for this movie. And it's not like it's like an origin story or like a simple story. It's like multiverses, and there's multiple Spider-Man and multiple villains from it is one of the most comic book movies of all time. And America came out in droves for it. And I'm like fascinated by that, like there is a real appetite for pretty crazy comic book stuff, So if all these people that like, oh, comic movies are going to die and comic movies are over, I think the genre has got a couple more years left before we really dies out. Maybe this is the peak. I thought Endgame was the peak and it was going to kind of dwindle from there because we lost so many like main characters, right? Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow. There was characters that were very popular that were moving on. So how can you maintain the popularity of this? But it seems like they have a pretty good formula right now of what they're doing. And what I think is really interesting, though, is the point that I was getting at is Batman, I think, is coming out next week. The Batman, which... So I'm a huge Batman fan, like probably... huge, like enormous Batman fan, right? Love it. One day we'll see all the comic books behind you, and about 65% are Batman comics. But I tell you what, not super psyched for this movie. And I'm sure I'll see it and I'll like it, and there's things about it that I'll enjoy, and I'm sure it'll be, oh, that was cool, and like you don't make a $200 million movie and not have like interesting things about it, But the overall tone, is really dark, it's like really dark. And I think that that's a conscious choice that Warner Brothers and DC is making to be more of the darker, grittier hero versus like the Marvel formula, which is a bit more lighthearted, a bit more jokey, a bit more, light, for lack of a better word, And I'm wondering how this is going to play out, I don't think the Batman is going to like beat Spider-Man in like domestic and the money totals, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be a really highly a lot of accolades for it. I think it's going to impress a lot of people with the way it's like the way it's made, like the cinematography looks pretty amazing, and the character designs are really cool. But I think ultimately the story is going to be really like the Riddler is a serial killer. Like that's an interesting take, I guess, but it's like we're gonna make the Riddler the Zodiac killer. Like that's a turn. You know what I mean? That's a turn, and it's not necessarily what I'm feeling right now. I wish they did a different kind of attitude towards it. You could make Batman so many different things for so many people. I was actually talking to a coworker because she's actually the one who made me think about it, because she was saying how she doesn't like Batman and how she's a bigger Spider-Man fan. And I was trying to explain, I was mansplaining to her superheroes. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, I'm a really big Batman fan, and one of my favorite things about Batman is you can fit him in any story. He could be in space, he could be in, with other superheroes, but he's also like a detective, and he deals with murders and street crime. Like he goes, but he's also like a man in a bat suit, so there's horror elements to him. He literally is this like multi-tool that you can fit into any situation and any story, and he's still a human guy. He's not like a alien like Superman, or he doesn't have a ton of powers like Spider-Man. He's just basically a really smart guy in, albeit probably $1 billion suit, right? Like he's got some gadgets and stuff, but really it's his intellect and his mind and his humanness which has made him overcome all of these obstacles, you know. And he's dealing with trauma. It's a lot of trauma stuff, you know. He's you know, his parents were murdered in front of him. You know, you're not a fully normal person when that happens to you, I think, you know. Like I just don't think you become normal, right? I mean, there's probably murdered parents out there right now and people are like, "You're a monster. How could you say that?" And I'm backtracking, but he's just an interesting figure, and I am always compelled to and interested in Batman stories. But not that Spider-Man's bad, you know. I like Spider-Man too. He's a different animal, different beast. So, anyways, I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how people react to Batman versus Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man will be taking the crown as like the most profitable superhero. You know, I think he's going to be the guy that like everyone looks to now. You know, you've already seen the slow creeping of it, and I think it's just going to be the deal. You know, Spider-Man will be the #1 hero in superhero-dom, I don't know. In the pantheon of modern mythology, Spider-Man will be numero uno in my mind. But it's interesting because I was talking, it was like merchandising. You know, I was action figure merchandising, and it was like Superman versus Batman, and it was something how Batman toys sell 10-to-1 over Superman toys. So for every one Superman toy, people buy 10 Batman toys, and it's like that's incredible to me how like more popular he is, you know, over time, you know, because Superman was the originator, right? He was the first superhero, right? And he was a socialist superhero, which is a whole other conversation. But I think that's super fascinating that he was a really communist socialist hero, right? The everyman, you know, Superman. Anyways, whole other topic of conversation for a later date. But you know, he was numero uno for a long time, and Batman over time has kind of taken the spot, and now Spider-Man has finally kind of taken his role in the pantheon, right? But yeah, I can't wait to see how that movie does, and what it's going to be about, you know, because right now it seems like that's really the war. Warner Brothers, DC versus Marvel, and the paths they're taking for their franchises and their movies, you know. Whereas Marvel's had so much success over time, Warner Brothers not really. They haven't really had the same amount of success, which is why I think they're basically rebooting their whole cinematic universe, as they say, which is kind of lame because there's nothing really to reboot. So I don't know why you're starting over. Like, just start. You don't have to start over. Anyways, I don't want to get too nerdy and in the weeds about my opinions on superhero movies and stuff like that. But I will say I'm excited for the future, but I'm not optimistic for Warner Brothers to be able to take the spot away from Marvel. Marvel is just too good for too long, and they know what they're doing. And that's from a guy with thousands of dollars of DC comic books who is like the biggest DC fan in the world. They just can't make a movie to save their life. Unless it's like the Joker. The Joker was dark as shit, right? Super dark, won an Oscar. You know what I mean? So maybe they know. Maybe the darkness is the path to go, you know. But I don't know. I'll watch it. Like I said, I'll watch Batman. We'll see how it goes. Let's see what else I got in here. Oh, man. I literally have down on here Putin, Ukraine, and war. And I don't know where I was going with that. I just don't. I don't know how I was going to tie that into everything that I was talking about. I just think it's on my mind right now because with the social media stratosphere, it's inundating you now with war footage, you know, and you're just it messes with you, you know what I mean? The Instagram algorithm is just showing me war footage nonstop, which is okay, I guess, you know, but I feel like it's trying to make me feel a type of way about this situation, you know, and I don't know. I just don't know. It's sad. War is awful and terrible and sad, and I feel like there's a hunger though in society for new trauma and new, you know, destruction and death and stuff like that, you know? we're finally almost out of COVID, and it's like things are feeling better and people are feeling better. But then it's like, oh, let's start World War III to make sure everyone's blood is still pumping, and you know what I mean? Can't let them off the hook just yet, It's like scary that I feel like we can't, as a society, catch a break or a breath. There's no pause. You know what I mean? Like, it's just next tragedy, next tragedy, next tragedy, and it's like we're looking for it. We're waiting eagerly for the next horrible thing. Meanwhile, I don't know. Our lives. I feel like our lives are not on the back burner, and I'm trying. Maybe I'm speaking for just myself. I shouldn't generalize so much. I should speak for me. It's just like, it's very distracting. You know what I mean? Social media in and of itself is very distracting. It's funny, we were talking before the pod, about Star Trek and the internet having the internet being in place. Well, how was it phrased? Before the internet, we never knew what people thought about Star Trek, right? And it was like the idea that, like, these pockets of like nerddom, kind of were separate. You'd have a couple people over here, a couple people over here. Then you have like a message board, and all these people across the country can talk about Star Wars on a message board, and they can unionize, for lack of a better word. But that Star Trek is a good thing, but there's all sorts of other bad things out there that they're also coming together and institutionalizing themselves, right? Like fascists, there's a couple fascists over there, a couple fascists over there, a couple fascists over there. Now there's a big group of them, and they're all together, and they make convoys, and they shut down towns and show up to school board meetings. We had a school board meeting a couple weeks back, and it was about masks because, in Illinois, there was a case where they were going to get rid of the mask mandate for certain schools. And so people were like, well, whatever. They had a board meeting to decide if they were getting rid of masks or not. The board meeting lasted from like 6 to like 11, and they were literally handing out timeouts because people were interrupting these volunteer school board members. Volunteer, right? And people were in the audience saying, we pay your salaries. And it got to the point where the school board members is like, this is a shitty job. This is a shitty, thankless job. And she was swearing, and she's like, I'm a volunteer. You don't pay me anything, blah, blah, blah. This woman was my hero. She just got up and just let these people have it. She's like, I'm a volunteer. I'm just out here to give your kids and my kids the best, right? I'm not here as a politician, blah, 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 blah. It's like, we're asking a local school board, to make these health decisions for like thousands of students, and they're not doctors or lawyers or all this stuff. They're just following the government, the state government, and what their protocols are, who are following the science. But anyways, we come to find out the next day after the board meeting that there were literal plants. There were people from other towns that showed up that have no kids in the district whatsoever, but were there purely to disrupt and make it a political issue. Like, that's insane to me. That is insane to me. Like, mind your own business. You know what I mean? Like, mind your own business. Park Ridge. Ooh, I kind of said where I live. That's fine. I don't think people are gonna. Is a fairly Republican area, but for the kids and stuff, I feel like they're very liberal. You know what I mean? It's like liberal for kids. Not liberal. That's not the right. But it's more like, they follow the science. You know what I mean? Which, following the science and liberalism is like a weird combination. Like that, the idea that, like, following science. Not that. It's sometimes it's hard to say what you want to say in this current climate where you don't want to say the wrong thing and you don't want to make the wrong statement and disenfranchise a bunch of people. And as I said before, I don't want to create a they-other situation as I created they-other situation. But I just thought it was just not normal to do that, to come from another state, to come to disrupt a school board meeting and all that stuff. But then you come to find out, like the original point, that there's message boards and there's like Facebook groups where there's people that come together to do this specifically to get their message across. Is they will cross boundaries and, like, not that crossing state boundaries, but they'll go where it needs to go to get their message across. And I don't know, man. It's a little too far for me. It's a little too far for me. I'm all about, activism and like being a part of your community, but be a part of your community. Don't be a part of somebody else's community and have opinions and all that stuff about it. You know, there's like microcosms. There's like your community, the community at large, the state, you know what I mean? And there's levels of opinions that you should have on things, but don't come and mess up my kids' stuff because you have crazy thoughts about masks and stuff like that. Um, yeah, this just was super dark, super dark. And ultimately, though, it's funny because my daughter's birthday was last week, and her big wish was to get rid of COVID. Right. The next day, they did get rid of the mask mandate at school, and it was like her birthday wish came true, which was super funny and silly, because she's terrible wearing the masks. It's always under her chin, and the teacher's like, "She's not wearing her mask correctly," and I'm like, we try to talk to her about it, but it's like, she's how old she is. It's not easy to get kids to constantly try to do that. But either way, she doesn't have to deal with it anymore, and I'm very happy for her that she got her birthday wish. But that was the thing. These people couldn't wait to the week or 2 weeks or whatever it was for the mask mandate to naturally go away when the metrics made sense. They had to score political points. They had to score, this points. But the situation is like cleaning up itself anyways, right? Where the numbers are going down again, blah blah blah. So like let's just stay the course and like be safe for everyone. But it's not like that. It's got to be a little politics, which I didn't expect to talk so much politics about this today. But I think the way I started it with my patriotic shorts, I was bound to be like this. So this would be more funny, but it's not really funny today. It's like not funny. Let's talk about something funny. Well, nothing funny on here. It's all just terribleness. Catching a break, Oh, well, and then I have a story from a police officer. I was talking to this police officer, and again, this is not a funny story. This is like a shitty, sad story, right? But like, this goes back to my they others thing, right? I think social media right now is inundating people with a lot of like anti-police sentiment, which fine, right? Like police, police have a lot of responsibilities, and you don't always make the right decisions in those responsibilities. And I will not lie, I have seen some fucking disgusting police videos where you're just like, how as a human being can you consciously do this to another human being? Like, you are supposed to protect them, and you're doing this horrible thing, and I just don't see the disconnect. Horrible, right? But like I said, I live in the suburbs of Chicago, which in a fairly nice suburb, right? And, we don't really have like tons and tons of crime here, But one of my family friends, he's a police officer, and he came by the house on my daughter's birthday just to say hello because my daughter loves him and blah, blah, blah. So he's in full gear, full outfit, and it's always funny and intimidating when he comes in the house. But he's a super duper nice guy. And he told us a story about something that happened to him, and it kind of shook me up, man. It shook me up listening to him. There was like a shooting a couple blocks away from here, right? And he was the first guy on the scene, and this person was shot 4 times in the chest, right? And he was the first person there, and he was literally there while this guy was like gurgling on his own blood, right? And because it was an active shooter situation, the fire department and paramedics would not come into the scene. They wouldn't come in because they want to be safe, and so they have to clear the scene. So meanwhile, this guy, he's trying to keep this person alive who's bleeding out on his driveway in front of him. And as he's telling me the story, you can see he's getting more like agitated and more, kind of upset. And to make a long story short, I mean, the guy died, and he was there, the police officer was there for like 8 minutes trying to keep him alive. And when the paramedics finally showed up, they were like, oh, he's dead. And it was like really horrible for him to experience that, because he had put so much like time and energy, not time and energy, but, he was trying to keep this person alive. And he was saying how they made him like go sit down and take some breaths, and he was like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And he was like not fine, you know. He was really like suffering and dealing with this, because he had watched a person die, and they were like, well, let's clean your stuff off because there's blood all over. He's like, no, there's not blood all over me. And the lady's like, well, let me just see. So they took his like flashlight and all this stuff, and they dunked in alcohol, and it was just soaked in blood. Like the guy was just covered in blood. And as he was just telling me the story, I was like, it just made me think differently, because he's a human too, right? He's a person, and you know, the things that he goes through as a police officer are things that I don't go through. You know what I mean? I'm not dealing with somebody dying on the street in front of me, and I don't see that kind of stuff. And you know, it just made me think differently. You know, I think sometimes what it made me think about is perspective, you know, and how important perspective is in this world, and how you perceive things one way for so long, and it gets stuck in your head that that's reality, and that's the only way things are. Police are pigs, they're monsters, they don't care about society, they just want to, you know, rule with an iron fist. And that's not always the case. You know, they're human beings who see some horrible shit on behalf of us as people, you know. And yeah, it just changed me. And not that, again, I mean, I'm not like fucking pro cop or anything. I'm not out here stroking a cop. I'm just saying, like, sometimes there's nuance to situations, and there's deeper things at stake, you know. And so hopefully I just keep my eyes open, and I don't make some snap judgments so much anymore. And I try to, you know, keep an open mind about things. And that's really what I hope I keep doing with the podcast, is keeping an open mind about things, and using it to kind of explore my own thoughts and thinking about things. And, you know, like I said, trying to make it so I'm not them versus me versus this world, you know, because we are all in it together. And, you know, talking a little bit about mythology and superheroes, and some optimism and culture, you know, culture, which is funny. Comic books is culture. Never thought I'd ever fucking say that in my life. But, you know, it is. And, you know, we'll just keep rolling. This episode is pretty much done. I'm hitting the 31-minute mark, and it's dark. This is a Batman episode. This is not a Spider-Man episode. This was definitely a dark, sad Spider-Man episode. Started with me being violently ill, talking about politics, talking about Putin, which I couldn't even talk about Putin because it's such a fucking nightmare. Talking about a horrible police story, and how darkness in Batman is ruining the franchise. So, yeah, I hope some person's sticking around through this nightmare of an episode. I'm just kidding. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you guys again really soon. Hopefully, you know, a couple hours maybe. We'll see. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.